From the station that made country music famous, 650 AM WSM, this is a Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Hey, it's Charlie Matos, and in this episode, we Zoom with Grand Ole Opry star Craig Morgan. This was recorded the morning of July the 6th of 2021. Craig was getting set to headline Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville and appear several days later on the stage of the Opry. Lot to talk about with Craig Morgan. Enjoy our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast.
Coffee, Country, and Cody.
And then there's God, family, and country, things that come in threes here. One with us, the other with this man, our longtime friend and Grand Ole Opry family member, Craig Morgan, joins us now. And brother, whatever you do, do not forget to get in touch with Jeannie Seeley on her 81st birthday today, okay? Do not let the day pass. Oh, it's going to happen, yeah. Huh? I just wanted to pass that along. Jeannie Seeley soon celebrates 54 years as an Opry member. When was that, Charlie?
In September.
In September. It'll be 54 years. Bill Anderson next month, he's going to celebrate 60 years as an Opry member. So, short timer, how long have you been there as an Opry member?
I think this year is my 13th year.
And what military base were you on when John Connolly surprised you with the invite? I'm trying to remember. You were in North Carolina.
We're at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, at an installation where I served with the 82nd Airborne Division. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. So that was what made it even more special.
Oh, my gosh. You know, I couldn't believe it. I still sometimes think about it, and here we are 13 years later, and I still find myself in awe that I get to be a part of that, you know. It's one thing to play it, but to be a member, I tell people there are less members of the Grand Ole Opry than there are people who have climbed Mount Everest.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way. But
rarefied air, baby. Yeah, in both cases.
Yeah. I got to work Friday night, Craig. It was obviously leading into 4th of July weekend. And from the podium, I got to tell the audience about a really special American flag we had on display that you provided to the Opry that weekend. And it's got an amazing history. Would you mind sharing it with the audience this morning?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I hated that I couldn't be there that weekend, you know, but we had shows booked out before. Actually, because of the pandemic, the shows that were booked last year, and we had to move them to this year, and it just worked out such that it was on the 4th weekend. But we wanted that flag back up on the stage, and so they asked me if I would make a base. We didn't want the old high school brass base, you know. So I made one, and the cool thing about that whole thing, the wood on the base, excuse me, of that pole that holds the flag is wood that came from Jimmy C's farm, from trees that had been knocked down in the storm.
As Jimmy C. Newman, for those of you who are just joining us to catch up on this Opry connection.
I apologize. And the flag itself is a flag that was flown over the U.S. Embassy in Iraq that was presented to me a bunch of years back up on a visit that I made there. We were the first artists to entertain at the U.S. Embassy in Iraq after everything had happened. And that was a flag that was presented to me. And there's a great story behind that actual performance and everything that took place that'll be in my book that'll come out next year. Y'all have to read that. You'll find that very interesting. Another really cool thing, the little ball, a lot of people don't know, but these the ball that's always on top of the post of the flagpoles, they're not there just for decorative reasons. They are there. They were established many years ago, and it was those balls were put on top of there to hold a few items. One of which there was always a bullet and a match or igniting device that was there. So in case we were ever overrun, they could take the flag down, they could burn it so it would not be in enemy hands, and there was a bullet so that they could not take the person who took care of the flag. So the person could
defend,
kind of like take care of themselves.
Yeah.
I never knew. I had no idea. Did you, Bill?
No.
I always thought it was decorative. Yeah, that's fascinating.
How about
so that little ball that's on top of there came from a flagpole in Afghanistan that somehow I ended up with. We won't discuss
Well,
that.
now you've got me intrigued. When did you decide you were going to write a book?
Well, we've talked about it. We've been talking about it for a couple of years, and we finally last year, during the pandemic, went through all the motions of dealing with publishers and all that, and settled on a great book publishing company, and a co-writer, who a gentleman I've become friends with now, who's a great writer, written, I don't know, like 20 New York Times bestsellers. He wrote some of which have been movies. He wrote American Sniper. So we've partnered up, and man, we couldn't be more excited about what's going to happen with this book.
So who is your co-writer?
I'm not going to tell you.
I've got an internet, and I know how to use it. Okay. I'm going to do my own reconnaissance here. Well, hey, were you by chance the house band at the wedding reception of Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton over the weekend in Oklahoma?
No, I wished I could have been there, but like I said, we were working. Of course, what he did, he probably looked and said, "Hey, let's get married, but let me make sure Craig is working first, because that way he can't come."
Maybe the same for Luke Bryan too.
Yeah. They look at my schedule, and their wives are at the time fiancés will say, "Well, I want to do it then," and they'll say, "No, we can't because Craig's not working and he'll be there."
When do you first remember meeting him?
Blake?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord!
Was there a moment where you, actually close your eyes and you're back to this spot and go, "That's the first time I met that guy"?
No, I should. We all should be that. We should be that attentive. But we at that point, both of us, our lives were so busy. I just remember running across him and found out that at the time he was living out in Hickman County, and it wasn't far from where a place that I deer hunted. And so I thought, well, he might have some land that I can deer hunt on. So, but I do remember just loving him for who he was. And to this day, he's just like he was 19, 20 years ago.
Amen.
Man. He ain't changed yet.
Yeah. Hey, tomorrow night, Country Now with Craig Morgan at a relatively new venue here in town, Brooklyn Bowl, Nashville. Tickets are $20, and you're going to be at the Grand Ole Opry Friday night. Charlie referenced a little bit ago. 925 3rd Avenue North. So this would be your first chance to play the Brooklyn Bowl, I guess, huh?
Oh, yeah. And this is another show that we actually booked during the pandemic, because we're doing it on Twitch, which is a platform that I had never used before. And it's just an awesome thing. We're really, like I said, I was really excited about it. Of course, now things have opened up. So we're actually going to have a live audience as well as the Twitch performance. So pretty excited to be able to have a live audience while we're doing this Twitch performance.
Now, I'm trying to remember, you played the Opry multiple times during quarantine when we didn't have an audience. Have you played the Opry with an audience or even a partial audience yet?
Yes, did it with the partial audience and then with the full audience as well since we've opened back up. So
where was your first? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just going to say what a difference and what a feeling it is. That Opry House is such a special place anyway. You know that. You know that as well as most, or better than most, I should say. But to do it without the audience was really odd. It was just it was an odd thing. Nice. It was good to be able to perform knowing that there were people listening. And what's really funny, Bill, is now that when we're going out and we're performing in front of an audience, I'm amazed at how many people come up and say, "Man, we seen y'all at the Opry when everything was shut down, and you have no idea what that meant to us." So I was glad that the Opry did that and they kept things rolling. But now to go back with a live audience, man, it's like, I don't know, even the shows we're doing, we were just in Vegas, and playing Fremont Street, and there's, tens of thousands of people. And it's like breathing good air. It's like, it's like being in a fog. And then you know what that's like when you're sitting there and everything's foggy. And then when the fog kind of dissipates and goes away and you can see everything beautifully, that's what this is like.
It's like NASCAR in that reference. You get in dirty air and things aren't good. You get in that clean air, man, and you go fast. Life is good. So what was your first gig out? What do you remember about that and where it was?
I don't even remember where it was because we've done about 8 or 10 now. I'm trying to think. I think it was in Colorado or Utah, out there on the west somewhere. I just remember it was a bit of an emotional experience, because there's people there and there was, as entertainers, I love singing, and I didn't get in this business, you know this, to be a singer. I just wanted to write songs. But once I started singing, it's such an energetic thing to be performing and have people sing along or screaming and cheering or whatever. It's just such and to go so long and not have that and still singing, which I love to do, and then go right back. When we go back, it's kind of weird too. It's even though it's 16 months, but you know, since you did it, it kind of felt like you picked up right where you left off, but with a new energy. It was just amazing. It was really awesome.
There's one night that is particularly special to me during quarantine with no audience at the Opry. It was when you and Luke Combs were there, and he did this song called 6 Feet Apart for the very first time anywhere. Yep. And you did a song that still kind of,
The Mask.
It just, yes, I was getting to that. It just kind of still haunts me because though it worked for the time, I think you even brought it up, it works for every day of our lives when we're trying to make our way, doesn't it?
It does. And when I wrote that song, I wrote it, prior to the pandemic. It wasn't something that I had written because of the fact that we were all wearing masks and such. I wrote it because I feel like especially as entertainers, but I think in life in general, a lot of first responders have to do this. You know, when they get up and go to work, it don't matter how bad a day they may have had. They still have to go out there and put on the good face or put on the mask and, you know, and be there for people. And in life, it's that way for most people. You know, the mom and dad that get up in the mornings and know that they got to go to work and they have to take their kids to school and they might be having a crappy day. But they have to put on the mask so their children see that they're strong and are, you know, able. And when they go to work, you know, the teller at the bank has to smile when you walk up and cash a check or whatever you're doing. You know, it's in life.
Well, what you had to do after your son Jerry's passing and walking out there on stage and gaming up and giving the people what they came for.
Yeah, I mean, and that's hard, you know, especially, you know, I'm the guy that writes the song about it, you know, did something I swore I would never do. But I did, and I did it, and I tell people at night when I sing the song, and I've said it before, I don't always do it. Sometimes I just don't have the energy. It takes every bit of energy I have to perform that song. And if anybody's been to my show, they know I give everything I've got to sing. I belt it out. I want to give them everything I have. I want to put on the best show. I want to sing well for them because that's what they pay hard-earned money to come see and hear. But that song takes everything I have. And there's nights I don't want to do it, but I do it. I do perform that song because I know that God did that and makes me do that so that it will help someone else. And there's people that need that. They need to be, they need that encouragement, you know, and they need to know that. And so I put on my mask when I'm able and I get out there and do it.
Father, my Son, the Holy Ghost, Craig Morgan. That's the song he's referencing this morning on Coffee, Country, and Cody at 6:50 a.m. WSM. And tomorrow night, Country Now with Craig Morgan, Brooklyn Bowl, Nashville. Tickets are $20. That's on 3rd Avenue North. He'll be at the Opry Friday night. Wasn't it Ricky Skaggs in the case of that specific song, Craig, when you came off stage, who congratulated you on such a wonderful performance, even though it was emotional and song, and you said something like, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. You're never going to hear it again.
Yeah, it was actually Ricky. I again, that's another story I tell. I attribute the fact that song went public to first my daughter, because I wrote it and then I played it for her, and she told me I needed to record it so they would have it, you know, as something to have.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And then, of course, you know, I recorded it, label heard it and everything, and I performed it that night on the Opry, and I walked it. It was just such an emotional experience. I'll tell you this, too. Not everybody knows. I could barely walk off the stage. I was so drained and so worn out after doing that because, again, you have to try to hide your emotions to get through the song. And I just, at the end, I couldn't. So in releasing that emotion, it was kind of like coming off of, you know, a high or something. I was so drained, and I walked off, and Ricky said, he hugged me and said, you know, it's a beautiful song, and man, what a blessing. And he was going on and being so kind. I told him I was glad he got to hear it because I would never do it again. I said, I can't. And he pulled me real close, almost awkwardly close. And he said, you have to sing that song. I'll never forget that.
Craig Morgan, thanks, friend. Appreciate you coming on this morning.
Oh, buddy, thank you. It's so good to see you.
You too. Likewise.
Thanks for listening to our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Our program director at WSM Radio is J. Patrick Tinnell. Our digital producer is Haley Hall. Marketing and promotions director is Amanda Cannon. And I'm Charlie Matos. If you like what you've heard, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And leave us a review on iTunes. It really does help new people find the show.